Hey, welcome to the Longer Podcast. A quick heads up of what you're going to hear, what you might just experience. You're going to hear some harsh questioning of you, of me, and how you can decide to change your life in all areas, but the ones that you've decided not to show up at. And it will make so much difference because you can. And when you do, everything changes. Absolutely everything. Now come and be empowered to be the real you. Hey, welcome to the Personal Development Unplugged podcast. So pleased you're here. Your time is valuable and precious. So what I would like to do is fill that time that you share with me with the most shiny golden nuggets to help improve your life, to get your goals, your wishes, your dreams to come to fruition quicker, bigger, better than you could ever imagine, using your imagination, using hypnosis, using NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, all of that, using all things of the mind. No brain hacks, but real solid processes to deconstruct what people do to become great, and then find the processes that we can install that in ourselves to support you in your dreams and get what you really want in life. Anyway, who am I? I'm Paul Clough, and just going to have conversations with you in this podcast and get you thinking, but also share those processes because we're going to have so much fun. That's it. We're going to have fun for a change because we can sit down for a spell and have more fun than we can stand, creating the world we want to live in and be the person we want to be in that world. The only limitation is your imagination. And you got bucket loads, by the way, bucket loads. Have a listen. You really must.
Warning. You are entering into the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. Too late. Personal Development Unplugged.
Hey, and we're back for another longer podcast. Pleased to have your company. Really am. Just you and me. Having a little muse, a chat. Now, this episode may come across as, well, you might think of going things like, ooh, that was harsh, Cluffy. And it's meant to be a little harsh, to be honest, because I want to just stop you in your tracks for a moment, but not just yet. Because when I was thinking about this topic of hiding, I can remember, or what a memory came to mind, way back in my practitioner years, learning to be a practitioner of NLP. And I didn't know anybody when I got there, but I made a friend. Yeah, a friend. Cluffy made a friend. Hey, I made more than one friend, but there's one particular friend stood out in the way that he would ask some really good questions. But the thing is that they came from a good place, but they were bloody difficult to answer. And I might fob him off with like a very weak general reply. And he wouldn't have it. He was having none of it because we were talking about stuff. We were talking about personal stuff. And his questions got me to go deeper. Wouldn't let me off the hook. And I wouldn't call it painful, but it was, it was a bit painful, I guess. But because I knew he had a wonderful intention behind that. His intention was pure, as it were. And he was supportive because he knew that below that glib answer I gave was something that I could learn. And I did learn. I learned things about myself that I probably wouldn't have dare ask myself. And, we don't ask ourselves the questions, then we don't have to answer them, do we? And I've noticed over the years, I don't know if I track these people, but my sons, they seem to have the same bloody knack of, we're talking and I'll say something and they go, Dad, 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 Dad. That's not right. don't you think, what do you think about so-and-so? And I have to go a little deeper into myself. And again, they're doing it from the best of intention. They're not taking any shit from their dad in a nice way. They stand up and ask difficult questions. And if they can ask that of their dad, well, they're probably asking that of other people in their workplace. And they're doing it from a lovely core, as it were. So maybe that says a little bit about me. Hopefully it does. Or maybe they picked it up from somebody else. I don't know. And you know, if you've been listening to me for blooming ages, which I hope you have, but if you're new, you don't know, I love questions. I love questions. I have question books. I have puzzle books with all sorts of questions in. Say it again. I have puzzle books with all sorts of questions in. And there was a time, again, when I was lazy, I used to think if you just ask a question of your unconscious mind and then basically piss off, go and do your day, you'd come back to the answer. It would work it out for you. And does, but not necessarily in a timely manner. And I think to do self-service, you have to sit with your unconscious mind and your conscious mind and sit down. And when you ask those questions, you have to try to answer them yourself. Because when you try to answer them, that's when I think your unconscious mind gives you the answers. So I stopped just simply writing down a question and then disappearing and hoping I was going to get the answer, which I did occasionally, sometimes way beyond when I wanted it. And now I sit down and write those questions out in my puzzle book. I have a puzzle book. It's not for puzzling, it's just for puzzling questions and answers. And I'd sit down and make a few answers, then I'd leave it. Then I'd come back, and it's a bit like your unconscious mind say, well, if you're prepared to show up and ask questions and answer them, I'll find some answers too, and then together we'll work it out. And I find some extraordinary answers about myself. And those are quite difficult too. Because, why are they difficult? Because you have to be bloody honest with yourself. Because that's the thing. I have to be honest. And the reason we have to be honest is because we want honest answers from ourselves, and we know deep down it's important, isn't it? It's important to find that answer, and we know the answers will result in something important to us to be able to consider, to be able to do, to be able to take action, to be able to change our lives in such a way where we want to go. So, if you ask glib questions and don't bother to answer it, guess what? Don't be surprised if you get a glib answer or nothing at all. But it's like what I say is, start everything with an intention. What is your intention for asking this question? Well, I want to find the answer to change. Not just find the answer. I want the answer to help me change. Change the way I'm maybe thinking. Change the way one of my beliefs that isn't working for me. Change a behavior. Maybe not just change your behavior, but it's not necessarily negative. How can I improve something? So I'm starting from somewhere which I'm reasonably happy with, but I know I can get better at. And that's personal development, isn't it? Unplugged. But you have to be unplugged because that's raw, isn't it? That's just open, and you have to ask those raw questions and be honest with your answers and tuning into your unconscious mind. And being it that way, I want to ask you this question. And I want you to think about it for a moment, or maybe even longer. When are you going to decide to show up? What? Oh, this is a harsh one, isn't it? Yeah. Who said I wasn't showing up? Well, the thing is, I'll ask the question again, a few times probably. When are you going to decide to show up? And it is harsh. Because unless you're crushing it in everywhere, every context of your life, you ain't showing up. You ain't showing up 100%. There are areas of your life where you are hiding. Now, that hiding may have a positive intention of keeping you falsely safe. I might fail at this, so I'm not going to try. I really want to do it. But what would happen if I failed? And then you get those lovely positive intention of keeping you safe. So I'll show you at an unconscious level some little visualizations of it all going wrong. Because that'll stop you doing it. That'll stop you failing. And you won't feel a failure. But you do, because you didn't show up and do it. You didn't try. You didn't give it your best. Because if you do something like that and you show up, and we're going to define what showing up is really, I guess, in a moment. But when you decide to show up in that particular area of your life, it's not the final result. We've talked about this before. The whole point about it is it's your intention of that decision to actually do something. That's where you get the confidence from. We talked about that before. You get the confidence around your intention of doing stuff. So if you be confident, I'm going to give it 100%. 100% is 100%. Always weird. It's always weird to think, well, I gave it 150%. Well, that's pretty clever. But anyway, that's an aside. You see, unless you're crushing it everywhere in your life, you can ask yourself the question, why am I not deciding to show up fully in that area of my life? So just take a moment, maybe. Just take a moment right now. And don't think about the areas that you're crushing it, because you know those well. And we can work on those and make them even better. And maybe making those better will, over time, bring those other areas up. But it takes over time. But if you start crushing it in the areas which you're not crushing it at the moment, and you decide to show up and do that, that makes the things that you're really good at even stronger. So why wait? Because it works. So just stop for a moment. Pause. If not now, at the end of this episode, just take time out and think about that. Where in my life, well, you could start off with, I guess, where am I not crushing it? Because that's where I've decided not to show up. Yeah, just take a moment or two, maybe just now, to think of those areas of your life where you're not crushing it. And just ask a question. When did I decide to not show up? And when will I decide to show up? But we'll come to that shortly. And we can stop and write those questions in a puzzle book. And we can think about them. We can make notes. We can come back to them. But first of all, let's have a think. What the hell is showing up? Because, maybe not showing up is just not doing the thing. But we can sort of do the thing, can't we? And not show up. So what is the definition of showing up? Well, I just have a very simple one. And it is simple. And before I get there, I'll tell you why or how I got to it. You see, a long time ago, I had a pretty black time in life. I'm not going to go over it now, but it was pretty dire, very dire. And I did lots of work and did a little book about it and how I did this and what have you. But I went to become a trainer of NLP because I was actually told by my lovely sons that I wasn't doing anybody any good, staying where I was and moping and being a bit of a dick. They didn't say that part, but I knew I was. But I couldn't help it at the time. So, and I didn't want to be a trainer, but I went to become a trainer. I went all the way over from little old UK to Santa Cruz in California to the University of NLP to study and become a trainer of NLP. But that isn't it. You see, in those 25 odd days where we studied, I met some really wonderful people and they helped me build myself back up. They didn't know they were helping me, and some did, but most of them didn't know, but they did. But when I would talk with them in the exercises and just generally over a beer, they would say sometimes, I know you're not 100%, Paul. You've mentioned it or we've seen it, but what is it you want? It's always good to know what you want, by the way. And I used to say, well, I don't know what's going on. I do. I'm not going to tell you it all, but I want the old me back. I want the old Paul back. And so many of my clients say that, by the way, as well. I want the old me back. And they were saying, well, do you know what? We quite like the Paul in front of us. He's not a bad old boy. Young man. But he's not a bad old... He's a nice person. He's got some lovely traits. And all that. I'm not going to big myself up on that, what they said, because they were very kind people, but I wanted the old me back. And then one day I was thinking about this thing of, where is the old me? Why isn't the old me showing up? All that stuff. And then I had this little da-da, aha moment. I said, you know what? Why would you want the old Paul back? Because the old Paul was part of the problem. The limiting beliefs, the behaviours, the emotions. Not all the time, obviously, but part of the problem. But there's a real you, Paul, I said to myself. The real you. We've seen glimpses of it. They've seen glimpses of it. Of me, the real me. That's who I want back. And that was my question. That's how I feel what showing up is. In every context of your life, showing up and be the real you. So if you know absolutely sod all about something, you say so. You'll get help that way because you're honest, you're true, you're aligned, you're all this stuff. And I think that's great. And I was going to swear then, it's really difficult to be the real you all the time because it's easy to decide to hide. But if you think about it, if that's the real you, why the hell would you want to hide it? Because that's you. You cannot do anything about the real you other than make the real you better as you go along. And the only way to make the real you better as you go along is to show the real you and be the real you and do the real you. Because when you're being the real you, there is nothing better in life to be the real you. And that's what I say, showing up. So here's the thing. And you might say, well, in a minute, you see, I am still a work in progress on showing up too. There are areas in my life where I don't show up fully. And I get my puzzle book out and say, why the fuck aren't you doing that, Cluffy? And then the wife brings out a load of old silly beliefs, which then is good because I can question them. I can loosen my little model of the world on the beliefs I have and go, well, where's the data? Where do they come from? Are they supporting me? Would there be a better belief that I'd feel more comfortable being the real me and showing up? How much do I want this? Where's the will to do whatever it takes, Cluffy? Let's do it. And you see, even though, I got some great questions. Again, you have to be honest and answer them. You see, even though I've been doing this sort of stuff for well over 20 odd years, I'm still a work in progress. We all are, I believe. We all are a work in progress because we can always be that little bit better and things will come and bite us on the bum. Little things that we'd forgotten about. Oh dear. Or as soon as you say, I'd love to do that. Well, show up and bloody do it. But don't necessarily just jump in and do it, but think about it and then just do it. You see, I was thinking about this, as I do. Funny enough, you might not think, well, you don't think very clearly, Cluffy, or maybe you don't say that. But I was thinking about this, and most of these episodes, in some way or another, they come from me and my work in progress, from my journaling, the things that come up through my journaling, or the things that have caught my attention in a podcast, in something I've read, listened to, because they resonated me somewhere inside. And when they resonate inside, it's like your unconscious mind going, hey, this is what we're going to look for. And I think sometimes they resonate inside, or you journal them, or it comes to your attention because you're now in the right place. Your unconscious mind saying, it's safe to start looking at this. And you see, this is, this is so, what's the word now? There is a word. Selfish, that's the word. It's a difficult word to come up with there, Cluffy. This is my selfish way of going inside me, but doing it in a means of sharing, because I want to share with you ways of changing the way we are to actually show up. So it's my way of working out how to show up, and I want to share it with you because when they're personal like this, it means so much more to me. One thing to learn myself, but also to share that, because that's what I believe I'm on this world for. Not bigging myself up, but just to share stuff I've learned, share stuff I've the things I can do. I've got certain skills, and I didn't realize that I had those skills. I've learned those skills. I've made those skills because a long time ago, before I got into this, I wasn't a people person whatsoever. You would get nothing out of me because I wanted it all for myself. Absolutely. I wanted everything in return, but I wanted a win lose. I win, you lose, because I want to just keep going. But that's all gone, because that was such a load of old bollocks, really. Well, it is. But this is, in some ways, I'm just breaking some of this down, deconstructing where all this stuff comes from. And it's my way of working out how I can show up. And together, we'll both show up. Because I think you'll take a golden nugget from this. Or nuggets. Let's have some plural. And hopefully by me sharing the things like this, knowing that they're coming from a good place, because they are. They're coming from my heart. They're coming from, with love, sending you man hugs, woman hugs, or whatever hugs you get, but helping both of us. Because if I can help you and you can help me, well, we're doing pretty well, aren't we? So I know it's hard to acknowledge it. To acknowledge that you've decided not to fully show up in a different area, in certain areas of your life. But let's just change it slightly. You see, instead of keep going on about that thing, I've decided not to fully show up, because then we're focusing on the not to, aren't we? And I don't want you to think about not showing up all the time, because what do you get when you think about things most of the time? You get what you think about most of the time, whether you want it or not. So I want you to start thinking of those areas of your life. You can say, I've decided to show up in that area, and I'm going to show up fully. When am I going to fill up? I'll say that again. When am I going to decide to show up fully? I'm going to decide to do it right now. Because you can fool some people, by the way, by pretending you're going to show up. But you can't fool that one person. You and or those two people, you and your unconscious mind, because you both know you're talking bullshit. If you say, I'm going to show up now with no intention. So I think you just got to sit quietly and be honest and have the thoughts, let's do it now. Let's do it now. And really decide, I'm going to show up. But the thing is, that's easy said, isn't it? It's easy said. Oh, I'm going to show up. And even by saying that, you're admitting that you haven't shown up in that area of your life. And that can be a little bit painful. But it ain't that painful, really, because you know it anyway. But that is the most wonderful, awesome thing you can start with. What? I actually wrote WTF, Cluffy. That's what I'm thinking you're thinking. WTF, Cluffy. You can work that one out. You see, if you decided, which you did, obviously, because you don't do it, if you decided not to show up fully, you notice that word is coming in every time now? Fully. We're not just showing up, we're showing up fully, the real you, the real me. That means it was purely just a decision. And that means you can change that decision. You can decide that you're going to change your mind. And you're the only one who can, by the way. And that's a wonderful, great thing, because you're not going to listen to any other sod. Well, hopefully a little bit of me, because this is positive, but you're not going to listen to all the stuff going around. You're going to decide yourself. Yeah, I've obviously decided, and that's the honest and painful thing, I've decided not to show up for whatever reason. There's a positive tension somewhere, but I want to do it, and I want to do it safely. And I'm going to decide to do that. Because if I can decide to change and show up fully as my real me in a safe and wonderful way, that would be okay, wouldn't it? It'd be better than I've got. Because not showing up fully, when I think about it, that hurts. And there's a conflict there because I want it and I'm not doing it. And there's a positive intention to protect me from failure, but I'm failing at not being me. So therefore, there's a conflict. So let's get rid of the bloody conflict. And let's take it deeper. How can you take this deeper, Cluffy? Well, I'm going to tell you, because when you decide, you're gonna, what a word. When you decide that you're going to show up fully, you can, and I wrote these down, you can say, I'm going to show up fully with love. It's a bit soppy, but what a wonderful way to show up. And I'm going to show up fully in this area of my life with kindness. And I'm going to show up fully in this area of my life with humility. And I'm deciding to show up fully in my life in this context with care. Now, you can add on a few more of those because these were mine, but I think they're pretty good. But you imagine if you showed up in any area of your life fully with love, fully with kindness, fully with humility, fully with care, you could not fail. You could not fail. You can grow, you can make it even better, but you couldn't fail. And if you couldn't fail, you're safe. And if you've got love, kindness, humility, care, and whatever you add to it, you fill in the blank, you get to feel absolutely awesome. Everyone around you gets to feel absolutely awesome. The people in that context of your life get to feel absolutely awesome. So just take a moment now. Just imagine. No one's bloody looking. Maybe just take a moment or two to close your eyes, if it's safe to do so, not driving, obviously, or working machinery, whoever does that. But just imagine now, if it's okay to do that, close your eyes and imagine just being you, full of love. Your behaviors, your thoughts, your beliefs are all come from a place fully charged with pure love. And add to that all the kindness you have. And you've got oodles and oodles and oodles of kindness. You just have to pull it to the front. And when you have all filled and be full with pure love and kindness, stick a lovely dollop of humility in there. And you have all the care in the world. Care for yourself and care for others. Care for little old planet Earth. And then bring to mind that dollop of the other, you fill in the blank. And just notice how wonderful that feels. And just notice you could do anything. Show up with this set of resources and plus all the skills you've got. But you can learn skills with love, kindness, humility, care, and plus you fill in the blank. And when you come from this core, which we have at our core, you could do anything. And when you show up fully, the real you, in those areas of your life where you weren't showing up and you decide to show up with this, you will crush it. And when you crush it there and you also decide, I'm going to even add all of this to the stuff I'm doing well when I show up, you'll even crush it even more, crushing it. To quote a sort of a quote by somebody, I can't remember his name now, I should do. Gary Vaynerchuk. You can't forget a name like that and a person like that. But if you can crush it with love, kindness, humility, care, you fill in the blank. And all you have to say now is, let's do it now. Let's do it now. And you can. You can. And the thing is, you can open your eyes, by the way, now. If you want, carry on. But if you can't do it, let's start again. You can do it alone, but you don't have to. Because that's what this podcast's about. It's about getting your dreams, getting you to act and be the most beautiful, wonderful you, which is the you filled with love, kindness, humility, care. You fill in the blank. So you might find, I can do it and I'm crushing it, Paul. That's awesome. Thanks so much. That's brilliant. But maybe there's a little bit that's tickling. I'm here to help. Because sometimes just saying it isn't enough. But believe you me. It's a funny saying, isn't it? Believe you me. We've already loosened that internal model of the world of yours. Knowing now that having just done that little visualization, getting those feelings together, getting you to think this way, you know that you can now turn up in any area of your life, being the real you, and show and ooze love, kindness, humility, care. You fill in the blank. Because just occasionally, though, we've had those limiting beliefs, and they've been there a long time. You learnt them a long time ago. And they've stopped you just stepping through this tiny little door, this invisible little thing that restrains us from going into another dimension, as it were, of the real us. And we can work on that. So maybe you have a limiting belief. I still have it. But you start off with this thought of, and doing what we've been talking about, deciding, I'm going to do it. Maybe I just need a bit more help. Well, help's here, my friend, because we can explore it together. And I'm going to dive into it myself again, about limiting beliefs and things like that, and all of this. But if there's something particular which you say, well, this is awesome, but I just need a bit of help, email me. It's what this whole show, this whole podcast is about. Sharing stuff together. So email me what you think you may need, what would help you, or what's not helping you. And just send an email, feedback@personaldevelopmentunplugged.com. It's personal, and it comes to me. And we can work things together. We'll have an episode, we'll do something, and it's going to help so many other people too. Because showing up, being the real you, is where you need to be. So on that final day, when you take your last breath, way, way, way in the future, by the way, way in the future, you take that last breath, you can actually say, yeah, I showed up everywhere, all the time. And I'm proud of me, because I was love. I was kindness. I was humble. I was caring. I was, you fill in the blank. Because that's who I am. And that's who I will always be. Nothing's going to stop me showing up right now. Let me know what you thought. The same email address. If there's anything that I didn't explain properly or whatever. Hope I did. Fairly passionate in there somewhere. And I only have one. They always call it a call to action. Oh, have a call to action. Just have one. So the only call to action is obviously look after yourself. Make those decisions. Email me if you need help. But just share this bloody episode if you would. Share this with a couple of mates of yours. Some friends. Share them if you know that they're not fully showing up, because you know that they could do better. And if they did do better with love, kindness, humility, care, you fill in the blank, their life would be so much better. And their life being so much better will influence and affect so many other people in the world. So just want to sort of recap some of the notes I made at this. My meta view of this is this just comes from a place of love. Love for you. Bit soppy, I know. Oh, Cluffy being soppy. But the thing is, what I wanted to tell you in all of this was, you don't need to put up with not showing up, because you decided not to, and now you can decide that you want to, because the benefits of showing up are so much more than not, and it's only a decision away. And there's only one person. Making a decision is bloody easy, isn't it? I'm just going to decide to do it and then take action. How do I want to feel on this? So powerful. Powerful that you can be the real you and what it's going to be. Powerful inside, inner power. High self-esteem. Powerful self. Taking real empowerment, basically. And why is it important? Well, I linked us both together, to you and me. Just showing ourselves to the world is everything. That's why it's important. It's everything. So please share this. Please, if you've learned anything from this or have inspired anything from this, please take action. Decide to do it now. Right now. Anyway, that's where we are. I hope you enjoyed this. And until the next time, my friend, thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. It's time to fly.
Warning, you are now leaving the unplugged mind of Paul Clough. It's time to fly on your own. Be brave, my friend.
Personal Development Unplugged.